All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today, our theme is make something terrible better. In our first episode, you made those really cool propeller-driven cars, and 3 out of our 4 teams were able to successfully make a car that moved, which was pretty impressive. You guys worked really hard. Some people had a slower start than others, and today we're going to be working on how you'd be able to make that car better using 3D design. And so we'll be doing that with tinkercad. So most of you have an account in tinkercad, and I've given you a way to be able to join that through me, and you've even tinkered some on your own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the steps of how we do that. You are going to need the platform for your car, which we made out of chipboard. You hit cardstock as well, but chipboard is what we used. It made a nice platform that we could cut things out of and kind of adjust on the fly. And today you're going to take your design and you're hopefully going to make it better. To do that, you're going to need a ruler, and you're going to need to use not the inches, but instead you're going to be using the millimeters. Okay. For those of you who don't know, and hopefully most of you know by this point, 10 millimeters make up 1 centimeter. So if you're measuring in centimeters, like 1 centimeter here, that is made up of 10 millimeters. And you're going to need to be precise with that, because as we make our designs in 3D and I send it to the printer, you're going to want to have a very precise model. So I want you to keep in mind a few things. There are a lot of tips that I'm not going to be sharing with you today, and a lot of exercises that you'll probably figure out on your own. And all of that is great. You will probably be better at tinkercad than me within a couple sessions. I use a different program called Blender, which is free, but it doesn't run on these Chromebooks. It really uses a computer to be able to run. So if you have access to a computer at home and you want to use some really high-tech stuff, which we used to use here when we had computers, you would download blender.org. There's a free download on there, and there are some incredible things that you can make on there. I would encourage you to try that if you have a computer that your parents let you use at home, because that is all kinds of inventive stuff. But we're going to be using tinkercad. Let me show you, after I've measured this and I've been able to put this together, I'll show you what I would do in tinkercad. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you here. These are designs I've made for all kinds of stuff over the years, and here's my practice one, which I'm going to kind of walk you through here in a minute. But you'll go into designs, so you'll have this same sort of a thing right here. You'll go into designs, and then in designs, you'll want to click on 3D, and you'll want to create. And you'll create a 3D design, and that'll give you a blank platform on which to work. And it just is called a work plane. Now, I have taken my my platform and I have measured that out, and I've measured that to be 12 centimeters long, which is 120 millimeters, by 8 centimeters wide, which is 80 centimeters. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these boxes and I'm just going to drag it over here. And you'll notice it looks tall, it's just boxy, but as I roll over it, you'll notice it gives me dimensions. And this one is 20 centimeters. And if I click on it, you can get all kinds of dimensions for this by 20 centimeters by 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters. And you'll notice that it has over here the snap grid, and you can change the settings to be different kinds of units. I would not recommend doing that. There are other things that you can change on here. I wouldn't recommend playing with it too much. You'll notice it is 200 millimeters by 200 millimeters. We can change the width of our plane because we are working on a 10-inch by 10-inch, so it's bigger than 20 millimeters, but we're just going to work on this for right now. Now, if I want to zoom, I kind of just expand my fingers like this, okay, and I can zoom into it and see it really close. I can also left click to rotate my screen like this. If I want to like slide my screen, I hold Control, left click, and then I can, let's see, Control and, is it Control? No, Shift and left click, and I can pull my screen around like that. So if I hold Shift down at the same time, I click on left click, I can move my screen around, recenter things. All right. You can also left click and then move down to a different view like this. So this is I'm saying left click. I should be saying right click. I am so sorry. You click on the right side of your keypad and move it around. So that was a mistake I made there. Right click and you can move it around like that to get different views. You can also get different views by clicking here. and that'll change the views that you have. Now I'm going to make the base of my my car, my frame, I should say, and I'm going to do this by I'm going to use this and I'm just going to bring this down. Now you notice as soon as I go over one of these dots, it shows me a height. If I click on that, I can change the height I want, and I want this to be pretty thin. So I'm going to start with 3 millimeters, and I'm just going to press 3 and then enter, and then it automatically goes to 3 millimeters thick. So that's the thickness of my car. All right. If I once again right click and rotate it so I can see it, if I click on this side, it'll give me this number here that I can adjust. And I want my width to be, remember, it's 80 millimeters or 8 centimeters wide. So I'm going to click 8. I'm going to hit enter. I'm sorry, 80 and hit enter. Messed up, remember. Oh, make all kinds of mistakes. There we are. Now it's nice and wide. And then I'm going to click on this side over here because I want to go the other way. So I'm going to click on this side over here, and then that gives me a chance to change this one to 120. What did I just change? I changed the wrong one. You see? You have all kinds of things that you got to learn. This one is 80, and this one is going to be 120. Sorry. And now if I pinch my fingers on my mouse pad, I can zoom back out. And once again, I can use that shift, right click to slide it back down into place. Now I want my whole piece centered on the work panel. If anything's outside the work panel, I'm not going to be able to see it. The other thing that's nice is over here is a measurement tool. I can take this measurement tool, I can click on it and bring it in place here, and that'll allow me to measure things, which are going to be really important. So right now I've already made my base of this. Some of you guys might have different dimensions, which is fine. All right, totally fine. Yours might be 10 centimeters wide by 10 centimeters tall. I don't know what it is. You all made different ones. So this is nice because it shows you every millimeter that you got here, going all the way up. Now, if I take, let's say on this one, I had little notches that I cut out. You'll notice I had notches I cut out here, and I measured that. So I'm going to cut that out with I'm going to have these shapes over here. You'll notice there's basic shapes they already give you. And I can put any kind of basic shapes on. And these, when you see it striped like that, means it's a hole. Okay, so right now we added a solid piece, and we can add a hole. Let me just give you an example here. I'm going to put this right in place, and I'm going to click it and drag it over here. And I'm going to want my hole to be like at 1 millimeter. So I'm going to put it like right here. You can see the dotted lines, so it shows you exactly where it is. So I'm going to put it, let's say, right here. And then I can change my dimensions on it, right? So if I have that, I can change the height of that. I don't need my height to be very tall. It's 3 millimeters high. So I'm going to make it 3 millimeters because I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to lower this down to the work plane. Okay, so I'm going to actually put this in place. So you'll notice over here it's sitting on top. I want this to be even with my work plane. So I'm going to actually move it down here. So that's going to end up forming a hole when we make that. Okay. And if you ever do something like I just did, like I clicked and dragged it accidentally, if you hold down Control and Z, it'll move it right back into the place where you had it, right? So sometimes I actually make my workpiece a little bigger, or my holes a little bigger. I can actually grab this and just pull this up a little bit and make sure that my hole is going to cut all the way through. All right, so I can make this a little taller, I should say, by making it that big, because your hole doesn't need to be any specific height. All right. Now, you'll notice there's just a gray. It should be a hole, and it's not. It just is kind of like this piece that's kind of floating in there, all right? It's also not the right dimensions because I just fixed one. So I'm actually going to fix these dimensions to, instead of make it 20, I want to make it 1 centimeter, which is 10 millimeters. What did I just do? All right, 10 millimeters. And this one it's still too wide. So I want this one to be not 6. See if I have the right dimension here. I'm always double checking my dimensions and see if it's right. Okay, so click on this I can make this one 1, 0, 10. Use the wrong dimension. So I can undo that, Control Z. There's actually this one down here. I couldn't see it. There we go. Now it's just a 1 centimeter or 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter, and see it's a hole right there. Now, I'm going to want this kind of mirrored on the other side. So I can press Control C to copy and Control V as paste, and I can put another one directly across from it over here. I actually grabbed the wrong one, so I'm going to Control Z that. I'm going to grab the right one. There we go. And now I can grab this one, move it over to here, and it's the same right there on both sides. So I'm going to put that there. Now, I'm going to want this done several times. You notice I had several notches that were cut out, both here on the top, and I cut these over here on the sides, on the bottom, and some of them I was just marking where I wanted to cut them. So there's a whole lot of things that I was doing here with this to show how I'm going to do this. Now, I'm going to stop right there. You'll notice I had one, if you look back at the beginning screen before I went and started making this new design, I made a complete one where I kept adding more holes and more holes, so I have a frame that I can use. And I'm going to show you how you would take that and make that into one solid piece. Because right now it would just try to print holes and print solids. I'm going to hold down Control and press A. That's going to select all the pieces. It's going to select my large rectangle here and my 2 holes here. And you'll notice up here, there's a really cool function. This is the group. So it's going to group them all together. If I click on that and hit enter, it's suddenly grouped. Take a look at this. Now, when this prints, it's actually going to print up these holes in place. Now, like I said, I still don't have enough pieces cut out. It's going to be really important to understand how to use the hole feature. You can take anything you want and actually make a hole. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to use a triangle, and you were putting this in place, and you were going to cut out a triangular piece, right? So this is actually what I'm going to rotate this like 90 degrees. You'll actually get much, like I said, you'll get much better at this than I am. Go this way in a very short amount of time. I'm going to rotate this on its end so it's 90 degrees. Okay, so now if I wanted to cut a piece out that was triangular in shape, okay, like this, I could rotate it again if I wanted to cut out a piece that's rectangular or triangular, sorry. Right like this, okay? And if I wanted to make that a hole, I could click on hole. Now you'll notice it's that grayed out shape. It's lowered all the way down. And if I clicked on Control A, which is everything once again, and joined them like that, you'll notice now that cut that shape out there, all right? Now, the next thing I would do is, once you have these things all set, and let's say you have one that you want to use, I'm going to show you with my completed one that I was using before a second ago here. Here's the one that's, and it's got, they give these crazy names. So I'm just going to continue tinkering this one. I made all these holes for where I was going to add my wheels. I'll zoom out here. Remember, I go in like this, and I pinch to go back out. So I have all these pieces that are cut out, makes one large piece, all right? So let's say I wanted to take this and I wanted to print it. All you have to do is say export right here. Oh, before you export, let me do something. They give these crazy names. So I want to change the name of this. I'm going to say Mr. Reed's car frame. Now you'll notice this isn't perfect because this and this is not the exact same size and a whole lot of other things. You want to make sure it's cut through. You hit enter, and so now it's Mr. Reed's car frame. You always want to change that name to something normal. And then I'm going to click on export. And I'm going to click on STL. STL stands for stereolithic file. It's a computer file that can be read in 3D, so our 3D printer can print it. So I'm going to click on that. All right, now here it is, okay? It's in a stereolithic file, and then you would take that and you would email that to me. So you'd go into an email, and then you do an attachment with that name, and then I can take that and print that. Don't do it until you're ready, because I can only print one design at a time for you. And if you have one printed, it's not going to work. So you go to your email, you type one to my email, which I will tell you in class what my email is, and you can send it to me and I'll get it printed. And I'll show you how that printing process takes place in our Bamboo lab. All right, so there it is. And I forgot to make sure you know this. Look at my design here. You will notice that my design sits flat on the workstation. If it is not sitting flat, in other words, you take this and you raise this up in the air like this, it will be floating over the workspace. You do not want it floating because then we have to build supports. Then we waste a ton of 3D filament. It might not even print. It might just unspool a lot of the plastic. So don't do that. All right. So you want to always make sure it's on the workstation. So that once again, if it's floating like this, it's not going to print. Even if it's floating just a little bit. You're like, Mr. Reed, it's just floating barely. Well, if you see that shadow, it's no good. Use this button right here. It'll snap it right down to the work surface before you export. Do that, okay? That should be all that we need to go over today. Hopefully, you learned something awesome today. Let's see if I can stop this video. All right, hopefully you learned something awesome today, and good luck. Happy tinkering.